I have worked as a software engineer in the Silicon Valley for almost a decade. And because of this lucrative career, I found financial independence at a very early age. That's why I'm all about encouraging people who want to get into this tech career, but it comes with a set of hardships that not many people talk about. In this video, I want to highlight those hardships and talk about what kind of mindset you need to push through those. I'll also give you some helpful, useful advice so you can brace yourself when that situation occurs and how you can make the most out of it and what you can do to alleviate some of the problems. So the number one is that burnout is very common. Many tech companies can end up having a cutthroat culture. Nobody designs it that way, but that's just how fast-paced and pressure-laden this industry is. Engineers are expected to work like superhumans, and that may result in a loss of work-life balance. Sometimes personal situations are not considered. For example, pregnancy and childbirth for women, or even adjusting to a new baby for men. Whether it's keeping relationships with their friends and family, or doing things that they love to recharge and refresh, people get so deep into the rabbit hole of working and constantly burning their candles from both ends that they end up burning out. The biggest thing that you can remember is that you are responsible for creating this work-life balance in your life. In order to do that, you have to schedule time for taking care of yourself and relaxation activities in the calendar, just like you would do meetings for your job. It is also great to be very mindful of the number of meetings that you're attending. So many times you're just paying lip service, going to the meeting, coming back, just to realize how distracted you were from the deep work you needed to do to finish the tasks of the day. But you just had to go to the meeting because somebody put it on your calendar and you're supposed to show up for those. What we did in our last company was that we would talk amongst each other, peers, colleagues, and kind of understand if two people in the team need to go to a meeting or just one can go, take some notes, and debrief the next person once they are done and they are free and want to take a break. That way, this person who did not go to the meeting was able to focus on the tasks, not distract themselves, and got the gist of what happened in the meeting anyway. So really, you have to protect your time and energy because you only have a limited amount of it. Once the time is spent, you will never get it back. So be very mindful of this. And even when you're interviewing for new job opportunities in other companies, always ask them this question: what is that the leadership is doing to create a good work-life balance for the employees? And if you're in a position to choose wisely the companies that actually will take care of you and not just throw you in the deep, not caring at all about your personal well-being. The next harsh reality is that technical interviews can suck the life out of you. When I was a new college grad, I interviewed on-site at Google. One of the rounds, the guy comes in, gives me his laptop. He's like, 4 problems, 40 minutes, chop, chop, chop. I was like, okay, let's get going. I still remember the problem that I was working was to implement merge sort. And I started typing and started talking to him, just as I was suggested that when you're doing these interviews, you can kind of speak to the interviewer, and that way they'll get to know how you're solving a problem and you're thinking out loud kind of thing. So as soon as I started talking to him, he was like, no talking, only coding. Write your best code. This is going to the hiring committee, so make sure this is flawless. The pressure started building. And then the last straw was he comes, looks over my shoulder while I'm typing, and he's like, is that how you do this? My fingers froze. It was one of the most pressure-laden moments that I had kind of experienced in this career. I'm a new college grad, I want this job, I have student loans, I am in a completely new country, and my life was flashing past my eyes. So in general, that was a really high pressure situation. I think they were trying to see like if I break in that high pressure situation, and I didn't have enough practice, so definitely I could not write a single line of code after that happened, and it is etched like a sore thumb in my memory. Another time I went to the on-site interviews and we did about 9 technical rounds. The entire day was spent at their office, but nobody offered me a chance to eat or even go drink. By the end of the day, I had such little energy And the one thing that I learned from the experience was like, just stuff your pockets and your backpack with so many like cereal bars, Lara bars, or whatever, in case that happens to you. This is one of those things that no book or no college is going to talk about. So you just have to brace yourself and know that technical interviews will keep happening. Definitely in the Silicon Valley, I don't see a lot of culture of people working for 40 years in one company. That those people are definitely outliers. It's very, very normal to switch jobs every 2 years, every 4 years, and that just means you'll have to interview a lot. So budget this in your mental energy. You will have to be spending this energy, so budget this in your life. And once you have this expectation set, I think it is going to be a little bit easier. The other thing that you can do to alleviate some of the pressure is practice, practice, practice. These interviews that you are going to do for the day-to-day job are going to be very different. The questions that they ask you, the algorithms that you have to implement on a whiteboard or on a computer when going for an interview is very different from the day-to-day job that you'd be doing. Most of these algorithms are asked so they know that you have the fundamentals of computer science down, but it's very easy to forget if you're not working on them day to day, and that's what happens. So you really have to switch gears. Your daily job is probably to build UIs, but they're asking you merge sort. You will have to refresh all of these concepts, and that means if you're trying to do this with a 40-hour work week job and you're also studying for interviews, again, a recipe for burnout. So what I would recommend doing in this case is, even though you need to practice a lot, I would highly recommend taking some time off from your daily job. Like take a week or two off. Maybe it's personal time if you're not able to let your manager know that you're interviewing for another company. Take some personal time off and only devote this time for interviews, so you can focus on cranking out as many algorithm problems as you can, and then also practice with your friends, peers, to get the pressure of a person asking you a question and then you answering that question off of you. I also used to interview for certain companies. I didn't really think I would work for them, but for practice, I would go and interview with them. So just doing a lot of that will help you release some of that pressure. It's almost like when you learn to go out in the ocean and you're doing so much surfing or other things, you practice in a pool to hold your breath for a long period of time, and then when you're out in the ocean, you're much more calm. So that's literally what you're practicing here, to get more and more calm with these interview interactions, and then you'll be doing much better for yourself. The next point is that sometimes you can feel like you're not able to keep up with the changing technology. Every year as an iOS developer, we had this event called WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference, and so many new technologies were thrown at our faces, and we were just expected to go through all of the sessions in WWDC that happens for an entire week, 4 to 6 sessions every day, and then learn as much as possible from there and start implementing the next week. So sometimes it just feels like the technology is just overtaking and you're not able to keep up. There might be multiple conferences in certain people's careers. So again, keeping those expectations with the leadership and the management, letting them know that you won't be able to work at all during this whole 1 week of the conference. Do not double book yourself. When this kind of thing happens, you might think that you're just gonna push through and do the entire conference and your daily work. That's not required. Your management and leadership is going to understand if you want to take all the time out and focus on this developer conference itself. So I would highly recommend, again, setting boundaries is very, very important. You do have only 24 hours in the day, and 8 to 9 hours you must be sleeping. Hopefully you are, and not depriving yourself in the name of being the martyr of the team, or don't let that be a differentiating factor amongst the colleagues that you're working with, that you sleep less and you code more. That's not a healthy, sustainable way to do this. So always keep the expectations real and take as much time as you think that this will need. And even in the yearly planning that your manager does, let them know, give them this heads up that, oh, our team is cross-functional. There's the Google I/O conference. there is an iOS conference, there must be some other web conference that the web developers need to go. Give these heads up right from the start of the year to your manager so they can account for this time. And then when it comes to the end minute, when the conference actually starts, you don't have like a project deadline looming over your head because you did not plan well. So most of this comes down to planning really well, but knowing that there are going to be these interruptions in your workflow throughout the year are going to help you make these plans. The next one is not very technical, but the office politics, they exist everywhere. At times, you'll end up in teams where the members are only looking out for themselves. If the managers are also involved in these office politics, the environment can get toxic very, very quickly. In this case, I would highly recommend looking out for yourself and moving on teams or even companies, because there is no point sticking it out when the culture has become completely toxic. The next one, I think you might agree with me if you're a software developer, because I haven't heard any software developer say that they haven't experienced the imposter syndrome. It is a very easy one to creep up on you no matter how long you've been doing this, and you might always be compared to some other better developer or expected to learn this new technology, and you might think that you're less than. This can happen over and over again, and another skill that you can put in your tool belt is to learn how to deal with imposter syndrome. The number one thing that you can do is to just believe in yourself and know that you are in this job, in this role, and earning this much money for a reason. The reason was that you were able to crack those interviews and you are able to actually create and produce value for the company. So there is no point thinking of yourself as an imposter. The best thing that you can do is continue to grow and learn from your mistakes. Reflect on what you've done before and figure out what all you can do to improve and grow continuously. Make small changes over a large period of time. The book Atomic Habits talks about this in much more detail. But as you start seeing those massive differences, set some goals for the next 6 months, for the next 6 years to come, and see how you've grown during this time. And if you can document this progress, you'll know that you're not an imposter. You have proof that is all your work and the documentation that you've put around this, which will give you that self-confidence. Another thing that you can do is get professional therapy. Before a meltdown even happens or a mental breakdown happens, it's great to go speak to a therapist, and I feel like most of us could use that kind of professional help. So don't shy away from getting this professional help, and let this not be a taboo topic. Getting into some more emotional things that might happen in this career, my next point is that bias exists. There are two types of bias: implicit or explicit. Explicit bias is when someone says it to your face, I don't like you because you're of a certain skin color. That is very explicitly saying that they are biased against a skin color. But there are implicit bias that are actually more sneaky and I think more harmful, because the person who has this bias doesn't even realize it. And this bias can be against a gender, an age group, or race. So being aware that this bias exists and people act in different ways based on how biased they are can give you a lot of protection, because say if your manager is biased against you, that can stunt your career growth. So it's very important to understand and have an open conversation with your manager and your entire team. If somebody has a bias, there are really great tests that can be taken. Stanford University actually created an implicit bias test where you can answer certain questions and you can learn that you are implicitly biased. When I did take that test, I was surprised that I had a little bit of an age bias, that I thought that older people could be less than. I didn't even know that it existed in my brain, but then I realized that I have it and made strides in the direction of improving my behavior so I don't get biased against somebody and my work interaction should not change with them based on this bias. Overall, this career is very demanding and there are many hard moments that you will be facing. It is not uncommon for people to quit. I quit after a decade as well. But I also truly believe that if you've stuck with something for that long a time and you want to quit, it's okay to move on, because you've probably gotten everything that you wanted to get from this career. Even after not working full-time as a software engineer, I still encourage people, if they are interested, to explore this career. It can be a very creative field and you will meet really good, amazing people. All the points that I mentioned in this video are not meant to discourage you from this career. They are only here to make you self-aware and then help you out when this situation arises so you kind of know what to do. Let me know down below which situations have you been in and how did you manage those? If you enjoyed this video, I think you're going to enjoy the pros and cons of software engineering video from my channel as well. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.